We begin the Sikha in Parshas Emor and Chelek Yud Beis, page 103, the second Sikha. Welcome to the Shir in the second Sikha for this week. Men HaPasuk beParshas Seinu Daber al Bnei Yisrael Leimor BaChodesh HaShvi BeEchad LaChodesh Yilachem Shabbosayin Zichroin Trua. So the Pasuk in this week's Parsha that talks about Rosh Hashanah and the mitzvah of blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah. So the pasuk describes the mitzvah of blowing shofar as zichroin trua. What's the meaning of this? Maitik Rashi ateva zichroin trua umefarish. So Rashi quotes from the pasuk the two words of zichroin trua and explains. Zichroin psuke. What does zichroin mean? Psuke zichroines. To say the psukim that speak about zichroines, psuke shofris. Also psukim that speak about shofris. Lisker lechem akedas Yitzchak. To remember akedas Yitzchak shekarav tachtav ayil. That instead of him, an ayil was brought as a carbon, a ram was brought as a carbon instead of Yitzchak. So therefore we remember Psuki Zechreinis and Psuki Shofris for this purpose. Tzarech lahavin. So the first and basic question on this Rashi is as follows. Teva Zichrein Trua Harem Regiles B'Lashon HaKodesh. These two words are plain and simple, common words in Lashon Kodesh. Ve'enan Zukukais Lepirish. Doesn't require any clarification, any explanation of what these words mean. Zichrein Trua means simply to remember Trua, to say psukim about Trua. That's what it would mean. So what's Rashi's clarification? Yesh Mefarshim, there are those that say, this is a Rebbe quotes here, basically all the Mefarshei Rashi here say, the Koshel Rashi B'Tei V'Seilu, the question Rashi is addressing here is, Shalachei Mefarshim, and therefore he explains, Lahalam B'Parshas Pinchas. Later, in Parshas Pinchas it Nemar Yom Teruah, that Rosh Hashanah is a day of Teruah. V'kan Shina Kosav V'Kosav Zichrein Teruah. Here the Torah says that it's only a day to remember Teruah. So what's the difference? Why Yom Teruah there and Zichrein Teruah here? Which this is actually the question of the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Daf Chavtes. The Gemara asks this question and gives a different answer than Rashi. Rashi, so Rashi says, Shekavanas HaKosav Kan Hilu Psuke Zichreinis Psuke Shofris. In the pasuk in Parshas Pinchas, it's talking about blowing shofar, but in the pasuk in this week's parsha, it's speaking about a different mitzvah. To say the psuki zechreinis and psuki shofris. Avokosha lefarish kain. But it's difficult to accept this pshat that this is what Rashi is coming to address. Shaharei, since neisef lezesh lefiza avleila Rashi lefaret akushi bepirushai. So Rashi should have spelled out his question. If right here reading this pasuk, there is no question. The whole pasuk is perfectly understood. The question comes up just based on what it says later in Parshas Pinchas, so Rashi should have spelled that out. Zichrein Trua, Ube Parshas Pinchas Nema Yom Trua Chulu. Mikivish Adnei Lamadna pasuk the Parshas Pinchas. We didn't learn the pasuk in Parshas Pinchas yet. How would we know what the question is that Rashi is coming to address? So that's one point. So you can't say that this is what Rashi means. Rashi would have said so. Hine, besides this, Kimedu Bekama Pamim. As the Rebbe already says in many sichos on Rashi, Darka shel Rashi lefarish, Kushya Mesereres belimud Pashtus HaKosav alasar. Rashi addresses questions and explains the pasuk right here, to understand the pshat of this pasuk. Oi, liyashiv stira Mesereres etzel aloymed mi pasuk shalom dekvar lefneiza. Or to answer a contradiction of a pasuk that was previously already said and learned by the student that's learning. So if so, in our case, if Rashi is coming to address a contradiction from the pasuk here in Parshas Emor and the pasuk in Parshas Pinchas, Rashi should have waited until you come to Parshas Pinchas. Only when you come to Parshas Pinchas do you have the contradiction of what it says here in Parshas Emor in this week's Parsha. So why does Rashi address the question here? So that must be that Rashi is not addressing this stira that the Gemara addresses. Rashi is addressing something in the pshat of the pasuk here that needs clarification. On the other hand, the question is, as far as the simple pshat of the pasuk goes, which is what Rashi always comes to explain. That the zichrein, the mentioning that the pasuk talks about entails actually saying, verbally saying, psuke zichreinis v'shofris. How does Rashi know this? you find the concept of zechira. I mean, the simple translation of the word zechira refers to memory, where a person remembers something in his memory, not necessarily verbalizing it and saying psukim. So how does Rashi know here that the concept of zichrain refers to saying the psukim that he says? Now the Rebbe turns to the details in what Rashi says. Pirush HaPashat b'Rashi hu shezichrein pirushay b'psukei zichreinis. So it would seem what Rashi here is saying is that you have to take the pasuk and divide it. There's zichrein and there's trua. Zichrein is the source of saying psukei zichreinis. And trua pirushay psukei shayfris. The word trua is telling me that you say psukei shayfris. Two separate points, although in the simple pshat of the pasuk l'chayre it's together. Zichrein trua. Then move on. So another question is Aleph, number one. Pashtus haloshen zichrein, not zikarein, but zichrein hachaf b'nikut shva. Smichos letrua. You read it together with the word trua. Mashma. What it means is zichrein shel trua, remembering trua. The word zichrein is connected and related to the word trua. If so, the Torah is just giving a command to remember trua, psukei shayfris. Rashi mefarish says shezichrein hu tzivi echad b'fnei atzmai. The word zichrein is one command for itself, psukei zichreinis, and trua is a tzivi b'fnei atzmai, which is psukei shayfris. Two separate inyanim. There's the zikarein, zichreinis, and then the shayfris. One has nothing to do with the other. So where did Rashi take this from? Why is he changing the pshat of the pasuk and dividing it into two separate things, the chraynis and shayfris? There is another question. So Rashi in the beginning quotes from the pasuk the two words zichrin trua. Why does Rashi again quote in the actual pshat tevas zichrein lefarish psukis chraynis, to explain that zichrein means psukis chraynis? Why does Rashi have to quote the word again from the pasuk? In the beginning of the Sikh, in Order 2, the Rebbe brings that in some girses, they don't have that word zichrein in Rashi. Rashi quotes zichrein trua and says immediately what is referring to, psukei zichreinis and psukei shayfris. But in most of the Rashis, most of the prints of Rashi, Rashi does bring that word zichrein again. And if Rashi finds it necessary to quote this word again, to clarify that the zichreinis is learned from zichrein, so so you should have done the same thing with the psukei shayfris and brought the word trua to teach you that it's from the word trua that you learn psukei shayfris. So Rashi doesn't bring the word trua, so it's not necessary to bring the word zichrein again. Gimel, the third question here is Rashi mamshech u'mevayer tam amiras psukim elu. Rashi continues and explains what seems to be just about a reason. Why are we? What's the reason for this mitzvah? Why are we mentioning psukei zichreinis and psukei shayfris on this day? To remind, to bring the memory of Akedes Yitzchak, which was brought instead of Yitzchak, the ayil, which the ram that the shofar is made from. This is what it comes to remind us of. The question here is Ein darka shel Rashi b'pshuta shel mikra levayer taimei dinei v'tzivuye atayra. Rashi does not explain the reasons for mitzvahs, for details that the Torah says. Rashi does not make it his goal to give a reason for all the details that are said in the Torah. Ki b'derech hapshat ein hachrech sheyeh tam l'tzivuye atayra. B'derech hapshat, when the Torah gives a mitzvah or a din, not necessarily does it have any reasons. So Rashi does not provide reasons for everything that it says in the Torah, unless it's a case where there's something which is unusual and there's a question that Rashi has to give a reason for something. But otherwise, tam to give a tam for a mitzvah, Rashi doesn't do that. So why here does Rashi explain the reason we say psukei zichreinis and psukei shayfris? So the answer and the explanation of this Rashi is as follows. So the Rabbi begins first with explaining what is Rashi coming to answer. What's the main point of this Rashi? Ikir kavanas Rashi. Rashi does not have to translate or clarify the meaning of the actual words zichrein trua. But to explain and clarify toichin ve'inyan, to explain the concept of what the pasuk is saying here. What is this mitzvah? The yiyeh lachem gaime zichrein trua, that this should be for you. You should make a zichrein trua. What exactly is it that the person is doing? This should be for you a zichrein trua, mashma. So it's mashma, this lashon of the lachem, that this is something that is for you. And also zichrein trua, that for the Yidden this should be a day of Shabbosin. So that we know what it means, it's a day of rest. But then it also says that this should be a day for Yidden, which is zichrein trua. That Yidden remember trua. Sheheim yiskuru trua, that they should remember the trua. This is a very, very ambiguous mitzvah. What exactly is it that a person has to remember? Zichrein trua, what does he do? The Torah does not explain what is the content and the point of this zichrein. What exactly is he remembering? To remember the sound of a shofar? What is it? What about the trua is it that a person has to remember? So Rashi is pashut coming to clarify the inyan of what exactly is the Torah saying here. So Rashi explains, Zichroin, Psuke Zichroines, or Psuke Shofres. The Zichroin over here is to remember, so the Rebbe first will begin and focus on the Psuke Shofres. That the Pasuk is saying Zichroin Trua, in the simple pshat of the Pasuk, Zichroin Trua refers to remembering Psuke Shofres. That's the Teichen of this Tzivui, the Kavanasai. And Rashi's Kavana by saying that we learn from this Pasuk that it's Psuke Shofres. How do we know this? Tzivui zeh, ain't it tzivui zichron ba'alma. It's not a mitzvah that just says, bring up in your memory the inyan of a shofar. That's not the pshat of zichron. Ki im tzivui al inyam misuyim. It's a very specific command, amiras psuke zichronis v'shofres. To not only remember it in your mind, but actually verbally say the psukim about shofars. And this Rashi learns out from the words Zichrein Trua. This is hinted in the words Zichrein Trua. What's the pshat of Zichrein in the context of this pasuk here? And the Rabbi brings another example that we learned already before in Torah. Zichrein in Yonai Simas Leiv Miyuchedes. The concept of Zichrein here means specifically paying attention to something, not just bringing up something in your memory, allowing it to pass through your memory, but actually paying attention, and a specific attention, to something. When the Torah gives the command to remember Shabbos, what does this mean? The Torah just wants you to have this fleeting memory of Shabbos? No. Shabbos, Rashi there says, Tnu leiv lisker tamid, pay attention to remember Shabbos constantly, as Yom Shabbos, Shem Nizdam and L'cha, referring to the fact that during the week, if a person sees good food that could be geschmack for Shabbos, he should buy it l'kovet Shabbos. That's the concept of Zachras Yom Shabbos. So it's not stomach as something in the person's memory that he should remember about the existence of Shabbos. But the person should remember Shabbos when he goes shopping, when he's out, and he should remember it so much so that he should go and buy something special for Shabbos. Hainu. I'm not talking over here about a person bringing something up in your memory. She has a Koren, the memory of Shabbos should be in your heart. But to actually pay attention, to remember the day of Shabbos, during the week that is, which is then going to be expressed in something very specific. With a specific action. In this dam malacha, if you have the opportunity to buy something delicious for Shabbos during the week, you should. That's the kind of zikaron we see the Torah is talking about when it says the lashon zachair regarding Shabbos. So just like it's with that mitzvah over there, when the Torah gives the mitzvah of zacharas ema Shabbos, it actually means a zichron, to remember in a way that this actually affects your actions, that you go and you buy something for Shabbos. So similarly over here, Yelchem zikaron trua, the pshat of the remember trua means pirushai shetia nesina slave b'zechiras hatrua, that a person should pay attention to the subject of shayfris, of a shayfer, shetavi lepu'ula, which will actually also bring to something that happens, which is in this case not a physical action, but the action of a person speaking, amiras psuke shayfris. Not just to remember a passing memory, but a memory that actually has a result that a person will speak about those psuke shayfris. Similar to the memory regarding Shabbos. The memory of Shabbos brings a person to buy something special for Shabbos. That's the point of to remember it. If it's done remembering and it doesn't bring any result, so we see by Shabbos that there's no point to that kind of a memory. So over here as well, when the Torah says Zichron Trua, the pshat of Zichron Trua is to remember Shabbos to the extent that you will verbally express it with Amiras Psukei Shofris. So this is how Rashi clarifies for us the simple pshat of what is this mitzvah all about. Zichron Trua. Without this piddish, you read the pasuk, you have no idea what this means. Zichron Trua. Remember what? What about Trua? How to remember? So Rashi clarifies exactly what it is. It's Psukei Shofris we have to remember, and it's not enough. There should be a fleeting memory, but it should be something that's concrete, that's specific, that comes out in words that the person says. So this explains the Psukei Shofris, right? But Rashi began actually with Psukei Zechreinis. That Zichron means Psukei Zechreinis. Where does that come in over here? If the Torah says Zichron Trua, so then all we have is Psukei Shofris. Aval adayin tzarich bior lama kosva Torah hatzivui da amiras Shofris beloshen schira. If ultimately the mitzvah entails a person saying these psukim, so why does the Torah use the expression of schira? Zichron Trua. Tzivui al Zichron. When you talk about a command to remember, you're talking b'makim sheshayach hafchai. The expression of remember something. When is this referred to? Something that otherwise you would forget. And therefore you need a special command that a person should pay attention to remember this. That's where the word and the expression of zichrein is appropriate. Going back to the example that the Rabbi brought before, regarding Shabbos, you have to have a mitzvah to remember Shabbos. Why? There, the mitzvah is to constantly keep Shabbos in mind, even during the week. If you have a good, delicious food, so prepare it and designate it for Shabbos. So we're not talking about on Shabbos, to remember Shabbos one day a week on Shabbos. We're talking about during the week. During the week, when it's not Shabbos, a person will forget about remembering Shabbos. Remember Shabbos. During the week, when you're busy with mundane activity, remember Shabbos. Remember to put things aside for Shabbos. Not to forget Shabbos even during the week. When you have the opportunity to buy something for Shabbos. So we understand regarding Shabbos why the Torah uses the expression of Zocher. Zocher es Yom HaShabbos, to remember Shabbos even during the week. Rabbi brings now another example, not regarding a mitzvah, but another example where we see the Torah uses the expression of Zocher, Zechira, and it's only appropriate if it's something that could otherwise be forgotten. When Yosef requests of the Sara Mashkim, Shekvar Lomda Talmud, which the Talmud, the student already learned this before, Ki im zachartani itcha, you should remember me when you leave prison, to remind me if I pare that I'm here. Ki v'in shabakoshi ala achazman. He was asking him to remember him later on, in a different place and time. After the Sara Mashkim leaves prison, and even later on, only when he'll have the appropriate opportunity to actually speak with the king, with Pare, that is. Which actually also entails a huge change in his life from being a prisoner to going back into the palace with the king. So this all brings a person to be very preoccupied, and he may totally forget of where he was a time before together with Yosef in prison. So therefore, in this case, it's understood why Yosef had to tell him, remember me, keep me in mind. That he has to pay attention to not forget this thing over here that Yosef is asking him, that he's in prison, to mention him before Pare. So both of these examples we see, which is obviously and clearly understood, that the expression of Zechira is regarding something that may leave your memory, and the Torah tells us, remember it. But over here, but in our case, what's the mitzvah? Rashi says the mitzvah of Zichrein Trua is to say Psukei Zichreinis, or Psukei Shofris actually is what we're talking about till here, to say Psukei Shofris on Rosh Hashanah. So Aval Benidin Didan. There's no reason at all to give a command and say that this is about remembering. Remember this. This is the mitzvah of the day when Rosh Hashanah arrives on the Yom Tov, on that day. Then you should say these psukim. That's the mitzvah. When this date arrives, you say these psukim. It's not telling you something in connection to Rosh Hashanah that some other time, in some other time period, you have to remember Rosh Hashanah, you have to remember Shofris. It's the mitzvah of the day. And if so, all that the Torah should have just simply said is that there's a mitzvah of Amiras Teruah to say the psukim on this day. So that's the additional question that Rashi is coming to address over here. Right? So, just to clarify, on one hand, when the Torah writes Zichrein Teruah, we can see from the mitzvah of Shabbos that the word Zichrein doesn't simply mean something in your memory, and keep it there in your memory. The word Zichrein means something that's concrete, something that's specific, and therefore Rashi knows from the mitzvah of Shabbos that has to be concrete, and in this case, it's saying psukim. But once we come to that conclusion, so then the question becomes, why is it necessary for the Torah to Bechlal to use the expression of Zichrein? What's Zichrein meaning in this case? It's not about remembering something that may leave your memory. It's about just saying these psukim. So to answer the expression of the pasuk Zichrein, Perish Rashi the diak akasav Zichrein Teruah. The Torah is saying Zichrein Teruah lahadgish is to emphasize ul rabbis and to add neisaf alinin hashayfris. Besides the psuke shayfris that you understand from the word Teruah, gam inin shal Zichrein Zichreinis. That we have to separate it and read it separately, that there's two separate things over here. Hainu meaning Zichrein. The word Zichrein, it's not only an explanation to what it says afterwards, Teruah. When the Torah changes the wording from saying Amiras, which is what we would expect the Torah to say, and instead it writes the word Zichrein, this forces us to say that this, in addition, teaches us something else. To also remember psuke zechreinis. In addition to the psuke shayfris, which is the pshat of the pasuk, but from the shinei aloshin that it uses the term zichrein teruah and not amiras teruah, we can add that there's another thing in the word zichrein for itself, which is the psuke zechreinis. That's how Rashi knows that there's both psuke shayfris and psuke zechreinis. But the question still remains regarding the psuke zechreinis. Zichrein, zikarein, tzarich kashel enyim mesuyim. A zikarein has to be very specific and very concrete. We're not just talking about a fleeting memory of something. What exactly is this memory we're talking about over here? That there's a certain pu'ula, there's a certain effect of this zikarein that it will remember this. It's something concrete. As we mentioned before regarding Shabbos, the source of the Rebbe's the basic point over here in the Sikha, that when it comes to a mitzvah, the concept of a zikaron is not just a fleeting memory, but it's something that's more concrete and specific. So what exactly is the specific point and the concrete thing about the zikaron in Psuke Zechreinis? There's all kinds of psukim in Torah that talk about Psuke Zechreinis that you could mention, and it's just a passing thought about these psukim of Zechreinis that are mentioned in the Torah. But what exactly specific are these psukim Zechreinis about? So therefore Rashi adds and says, the point of these psukim Zechreinis is to remind the Eibishter of Akedes Yitzchak. Over here, the Zikaron that we're talking about, which happens through the Yidden saying these psukim, it's not, the purpose is not to awaken and remind the Yidden about this, but rather to awaken and remind the Eibishter. So the result, the effect of this zikaron, the concrete and the specific effect of this zikaron is about reminding the Eibishter of the schos of Akedas Yitzchak. That's the pshat, and the reason why Rashi adds the inyan of Akedas Yitzchak, that there's the memory of the shayfris, which is related to blowing shofar. When you talk about, you say the psuke shofris, it's not just a fleeting memory, but you have to actually say the psukim. And then through saying this psukim, that will bring you to the concrete action of blowing shofar. Similar over here, b'nekei to the zikaron of the psuke zechreines, there has to be something concrete and specific that comes out of it. So it's not only the fact that it's not a fleeting memory, but it's something that you speak about. You say verbally these psuke zechreines, but it actually has a very specific effect of reminding the Eibishter of the Akedas Yitzchak. So in that sense, it's different than Shofris. Shofris is about bringing the Yid to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Shofar. You say the Psuke Shofris, which results and then leads to the mitzvah of blowing Shofar. By Zechreines, the specific thing that it brings to is that it brings the memory and affects the Eibishter to remember the Akedas Yitzchak. Kos of Rashi. Now let's look into the specific details that Rashi over here says b'neged to the Akedas Yitzchak. So Rashi says Liska lechem Akedas Yitzchak achar psuke shofris. Where does Rashi bring up Akedas Yitzchak? After he mentions psuke shofris. L'chayda, based on what we're saying here, these are two unrelated things. There's the pshat of the pasuk. The pshat of the pasuk is zichron trua, and that refers to the psuke shofris, and that leads to a Yid being the kind of mitzvah of shofar. That's one thing. Then the shini aloshin that the Torah said zichrein trua and not amiras trua, that adds the idea of psuke zechreinis, and the psuke zechreinis are related to reminding the Eibishter Akedas Yitzchak. But where does Rashi bring Akedas Yitzchak? He brings it after psuke shofris, after shayach l'chayre l'psuke zechreinis. Although the psuke shofris has nothing to do with Akedas Yitzchak, it's only the psuke zechreinis that is about reminding the Eibishter of Akedas Yitzchak. So the answer is Kigam amiras psuke shofris, even the psukim of shofris is also connected to this. Is to remind the Eibishter for the zechuyas of Yidden, and v'zeh shemesayim. And therefore, when Rashi brings up the Akedah, what does Rashi say? Lisker lechem shekorav tachtav ayil. To remember the Akedah, and Rashi doesn't stop there, but to remember the Akedas Yitzchak, that a ram was brought instead of Yitzchak. What's the significance of the ayil? Madgish hakishur shebei shofar lakedas shel Yitzchak. This emphasizes the connection of the shofar, of the psuke shofris, to Akedas Yitzchak. Shekorav tachtav ayil shemikarnei osem shofar. That you brought the ram was brought instead of Yitzchak, and from the horn of the ram you create the shofar. That's the reason why Rashi brings the shofris over here, because the Akedas Yitzchak, that is, in connection to the shofris, because the Akedas Yitzchak is not only connected to the psuke zechreinis, it's also connected to the psuke shofris. Now who says though? The question still remains, maybe we should still divide it. Maybe zichrein trua, which is the pashto pshat of the pasuk, is psuke shofris. Psuke shofris is related to the mitzvah of shofar. And then the shini aloshin that it says zichrein, that's related to the psuke zechreinis, which is to remind the Eibishter about the Akedas Yitzchak. Where does Rashi take from this remez and this inyan that the psuke shofris is also like the psuke zechreinis to remind the Eibishter about Akedas Yitzchak and not connected to the mitzvah of shofar? The explanation is nisbaya le'el. So we already said before, the nikud tevas zichrein, the word zichrein, not zikarein, but zichrein, meira shehi besmichas letevas trua shalachra, that it's connected to the word trua that follows. Zichrein shel trua, remembrance of trua. So mizeh move on. If so, we can understand. The emayos sheyesh betevas zichrein gam inyan v'limud b'yuchad b'fnei atzmai. The word zichrein, which is a shinei aloshin, is machadish to us, that there's another, it adds to us another detail besides remembering trua. Inyan v'limud b'yuchad b'fnei atzmai. Hayrad amiris psuke zechreinis, to remember the psuke zechreinis. But mikol makayim, pasho, the simple pshat is, shehi smucha. That the word zichrein is connected, shayeches gam la'nemach re'ah. The word zichrein in its simple pshat is that it's connected to the word trua. And that remains, that doesn't change. V'hainu shegam betrua psuke shofris, that is, yesh in shel zikarein. This shini aloshin of zichrein is also coming to indicate when you get to the psuke shofris that the inyan of the psuke shofris is also for the purpose of a zikarein, to bring the zikarein of the Akedas Yitzchak. And therefore Rashi says, this is what forces Rashi to say, Shagam Amiras Psuke Shayfris, that even also when it comes to saying the Psuke Shayfris, he lisker lechem Akedas Yitzchak Shakarav Tachtavayil. That it's also connected to the Akedah, because the Akedah was connected to the Ayil, which is what you make the Shayfer from. The Zichrein Psuke Zichreines, Bala Eire, Zichreines Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Trua. It comes to remind the Eibishter of the Trua, which is also Psuke Shayfris, Zichrein Akedas Yitzchak Shakarav Tachtavayil. Not only remembering the Akedas Yitzchak, which is the union of Zichreines, but specifically to remember what happened by Akedas Yitzchak, which is the Ayil, which you make the Shayfer from. So it comes out that what the Rebbe is saying here is that the fact that the Torah changed the Lashon, instead of writing Amiras Shayfris, and it writes Zichrein, Amiras Trua, that is, and it writes Zichrein Trua, what the Torah is telling us with this is, besides saying the Psuke Shayfris, you also have to say Psuke Zichreinis. And Zichrein is Eyim B'fnei Atzmai. Otherwise, the Torah would have said Amiras Shayfris. And then besides that, we also learn from Zichrein that the Psuke Shayfris also serve the purpose to remind Eibishter about the Akedah. And that's the connection of Zichrein Trua, to connect it, to tell us what the mitzvah of saying the Amiras Psuke Shayfris is, to remind the Eibishter of the Akedah, just like the saying the Psuke Zichreinis is to remind the Eibishter about the Akedah. Just want to say that if this is true, l'chayre, it comes out that the word Zichrein is teaching us two things. What forces Rashi to say this? Maybe the word Zichrein teaches us only Psuke Zichreinis, or maybe it only teaches us Zichrein Trua, that the purpose of Psuke Shayfris is to remind the Eibishter about Akedas Yitzchak. And if that's what the purpose of the word Zichrein is, how do we know that it in addition teaches us that there's also Psuke Zichreinis? Okay, I'll leave for the viewers to, or the listeners to try to understand what is the hechrich for both of these things. Al Pikalanal, based on what we learned here, the Rebbe now comes back to the Rashi itself, and basically in this sif, the Rebbe is going to answer one additional question that he didn't answer yet, the question of why Rashi quotes the word Zichrein again. And the Rebbe is basically going to go through with us the Rashi inside, piece by piece, and show us how you read this Rashi based on what we learned in this sikha. Al Pikal Anal Yuvan Taimishal Rashi. We could now understand the reason of Rashi. Ba'atakose Oida Pam B'pnim Pirushai Tevas Zichrein. Why Rashi brings again the word Zichrein. Umefarish Psuki Zichreinis. And Rashi explains that a word, it means that word Zichrein means Psuki Zichreinis. Why doesn't Rashi rely on the fact that he already brought from the pasuk in the Dibra Maschel the two words Zichrein Trua? The Malamdeinu Bazeh. By Rashi bringing this word again, he's teaching us. The ha'hechrich lepirushay the zichrein hu inyan b'fnei atzma ve'ein rak musav letrua shel ha'achrav. What's bringing Rashi to this conclusion? That the word zichrein has its own pshat. That the word zichrein is telling us psuki zichreinis, and it's not only to be read together zichrein trua. So it's a separate thing. Hu mediyek lashon hakasav zichrein. This word zichrein is unusual. V'lo amiras, and not the word that you would expect, which is amiras. Right? So when Rashi is maitik the two words zichrein trua, you don't clearly see from those two words together, zichrein trua, that there's something separate. Adarabah, zichrein trua is clear that it's one inyan. So Rashi therefore is maitik the word zichrein separately to make it clear, this word, focus on this word is unusual. And this is my raya, this is my raya that there's an additional thing here in the pasuk, which is psuki zichreinis. Mashenkem psuke shayfris nilmadu mi pirsha pashat shalteva zichrein trua. Zichrein trua, you read it together. So trua means to remember the psuke shayfris. Vein tzarich latika idapam b'pirusha. So Rashi doesn't have to bring zichrein trua again. The chiddush of Rashi is is being machadish an additional thing which is not mamish the pashut pshat of the pasuk, because of the shini alashon of zichrein, that the psuke zichreinis. For that Rashi has to bring the word zichrein separately to show you here. Focus on this word. This is my proof, but not going to get to the second point. That's the pashut pshat over here. Mamshech Rashi. Let's continue reading the Rashi inside. Psuke zichreinis or psuke shayfris liska lachem, to remember Akedas Yitzchak. So the Torah puts the two together. Muchach, the gam betrua, yesh inyan shal zichrein. that even regarding Teruah, there's also an union of a Zikaron. Kanal Sivov, that the point of saying the Psukei Shofris is also not only connected to the mitzvah of Shofar, but it's also about bringing up the memory of the Yidden to the Eibishter to remember the Akedas Yitzchak through the Ayil. Mizeh move on the Shneim, Psukei Zechreinis, Psukei Shofris, both of them. Nemarem letachlis achas. A person says them on Rosh Hashanah for one purpose, Liske lechem akedes Yitzchak shekorav tachtav ayil, because we're remembering the akedes Yitzchak, that's the Psukei Zechreinis, and also korav tachtav ayil, the Psukei Shofris, reminds the Eibishter about akedes Yitzchak as well, which an ayil was brought instead of Yitzchak. Al Pizei Shloima, the Rebbe now says another pshat, Bir Neisef, another reason, Al Zeh shehiktim Rashi lepirushay teva zichrein. Why Rashi quotes the word zichrein again from the pasuk. Mamshech, and after he quotes that word zichrein, Rashi says Psukei Zechreinis Psukei Shofris, both together. So here, now the Rebbe says we can say that when Rashi brings the word zichrein again from the pasuk, it goes on both. It goes on Psukei Zechreinis and on Psukei Shofris. And Rashi befeidish should not interrupt and bring tevas trua beineim, to bring the word trua. That zichrein is marbe Psukei Zechreinis, and then bring from the word Torah the word trua, that's marbe Shofris. Rashi does not do that. The bezem madgish. Rashi wants to emphasize with this: the gam amiras Psukei Shofris hen lotachlis the zikaron. That even the Psukei Shofris is also for the purpose of Zikaron. That the word Zichrein in the Teruah, Be'emes goes on both. It goes on the Zichreinis and on the Shofris. Sheyiskalachem akedes Yitzchak, shehikriv tachtav ayil. That, like we see in the Akedas Yitzchak, that you have both remembering the Akedas Yitzchak and also the ayil, which is connected to the Shofar. So before the Rebbe said that Rashi is bringing down the word Zichrein, because there's a chiddush in the word Zichrein. That Rashi wants you to see that there's a shinui aloshin here, and dafke the Psukei Zechreinis is this new thing that we learn out from the word Zichrein, besides the simple pshat of Zichrein Trua that you learn Psukei Shofris. Now that Rebbe is saying Zichrein goes on both Psukei Zechreinis Psukei Shofris, Rashi wants you to understand, besides the pashta pshat that you learn Shofris from Zichrein Trua, the Zichrein also goes on both, because the purpose of both the Psukei Zechreinis and the Psukei Shofris is to bring up the memory to the Eibishter of the Akedas Yitzchak.